Slouch Mania!
Where did that go from?
It's been brewing. It's been brewing for a while, Liam. Are you ready to rumble? Yeah.
So have you got an agenda, or is that the introduction?
That's the intro, man. Just
that one's for
live
you,
with
Rupert.
Don't reference people that they won't know. Oh, Liam. That's Liam. I'm Bailey.
Slouching with Liam and Bailey.
Imagine those 30 seconds on the intro every time. So annoying.
We just slouching,
Slouch. Slouch. So you know, the other day we were in uni and we bumped into an autistic person.
Yes.
We had a little chat. Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, the other day, I think it was yesterday or the day before, I bumped into him on my way to a friend's house. Yeah. And I was thinking, you know how when you're talking to a little autismo boy. Oh yeah. Okay. When you
grimaces at the mic.
No. See, when you're talking to an autistic person, a person of the autistic persuasion.
Let's move on. Let
me get it.
Come on.
They can I mean, this is what happened yesterday. He kind of just babbled on, and he just kept going.
Yeah.
And you just keep. It's like they're following a train of thought,
yeah,
and they just can't stop. And it can get kind of annoying. But the thing is, you don't get annoyed. You don't get mad at an autistic person, do you? You don't really complain about it. You just accept it. You're like, oh, well, I'm not gonna,
Yeah.
It's not his fault, whatever.
I was actually wondering about that.
Or maybe we're wondering the same thing.
I was thinking, because he was talking about, obviously this doesn't apply to all autistic people. It's quite a big spectrum, but for this particular individual,
we're all on it.
Some more than most.
In this room.
So for this particular guy, I've had the same conversation with him loads of times now.
Always.
So every time I see him, it's the same conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if he's aware of it, the fact that we're having the same conversation. And I was thinking, I don't think anybody has ever told him that he's having the same conversation every time with them. I don't think anybody's called him out on it.
Maybe you just need to call him out and then he would just stop doing it.
Potentially. So I was wondering if he thinks that, not that it's okay behaviour, obviously it's all right, but if I've had the same conversation with someone many times, because clearly his memory's not bad, because he can distinctly remember the exact moment he first saw me.
Yeah.
Amazingly well.
He remembers everything except the fact that he's already had that conversation with you.
It seems that way, yeah. And I mean, his knowledge on things is so expansive, especially locations of England. He seems to really know the stuff about that. And anyway, I was just wondering if it would be not maybe immoral or bad if I was actually, dude, we spoke about this. Oh, you remember that time you saw me? And I'm like, yeah.
You just implodes.
Well, I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. If you had a quote-unquote normal person, no mental disorders or whatever, just normal person, average, run-of-the-mill man person, who behaved in a, I guess not exactly the same way, or else they would be autistic, but in a similar way to an autistic person,
right?
In a similarly, annoying way, you would call them out on it,
yeah.
Or you would at least think to yourself, oh fuck this guy, I fucking hate this guy,
We're always having the same conversation.
Yeah, or just not just the conversation thing,
whatever,
but just being annoying, in general, just making weird noises or whatever. Not saying that all autistic people do that, but sure they do. I don't know a normal person that does that though, but
well,
well, I should do. So well, maybe this is an obvious question, but why do we treat them differently? Is it just because we've all accepted that some people, I guess, have a little bit less free.
See, I do have a little bit less free will.
Mm-hmm.
Just there. Okay, nice. But I've actually thought about this quite a lot because my brother was diagnosed with autism.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if it was coincidentally at the point that he became diagnosed with autism that he progressively got worse. But I have a little theory. Feel free to prove me wrong, or maybe this is complete incoherent in the medical world.
Yes.
But my theory is that he progressively got worse because everybody started calling him autistic. And then he started calling himself autistic. Because before, he was treated like a normal person. He was doing the same kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he was technically always autistic. But he wasn't diagnosed with it.
Right.
So I've treated him the same way the entire time. I don't know if that's right or wrong. I don't know if that's healthy for him or helpful.
Yeah.
But I treat him like I would treat anyone else. You know, I talk to him like he's the same person he was before the diagnosis. Right. And I don't know if maybe the fact that everybody started treating him weirdly after the fact, that could have increased his sort of descent into autism. Or it could, maybe that's just how autism progresses.
So do you think he's been a bit, what's the word, self-indulgent? Like he's accepted, I'm autistic, so I have an excuse now, so I can just kind of let myself go.
Yeah, but everyone, because of his diagnosis, it meant that he couldn't do what he wanted to do. Because I think he wanted to join the army, and he wasn't allowed due to the diagnosis. But also, I think everybody else kind of with that, whenever he would do something that was kind of strange, before he was treated like everyone else. So he'd be scolded or whatever, and but he was still treated as it's gonna sound bad, but as a human. Whereas now he's treated as if he's inferior almost. I don't know if this is even true because I don't know enough about it, but it seemed to me that people would treat him like an autistic person. I don't know, is that...
So what do you mean by that? Do you mean they let him get away with stuff that they would have been annoyed at before?
I don't know. It was just
because maybe,
but they I don't know if they were just speaking over him, kind of he's autistic, so he thinks this thing, or he can't be trusted with that because he's autistic, when before it was fine. And I don't know if people just have less trust in you, they think you're less capable, and in doing that, I feel the person's going to become less capable, less independent, because why wouldn't they if they have the potential to not need to?
Yeah.
It seems like it would make sense to make use of that. I don't know if maybe I totally don't understand it, because that's a real possibility.
Because you're not a medical professional.
Yeah, and I just don't really get it. I've never done that much research.
I mean, I'm sure there's a possibility of that type of thing. If everyone starts to treat you differently, it's probably not going to help you. Because if you're not getting annoyed by a certain type of behaviour in someone that you would get annoyed at in someone else,
mm-hmm.
you're giving them special treatment.
Mm-hmm.
You're letting them behave a certain way, even though detached from the people, that type of behaviour, objectively, you would consider it to be annoying or whatever.
Yeah. But
because it's coming from someone who has a mental disorder or whatever, you're accepting it. And so what does that say about how we view the extent to which people control themselves? How big is autism? How much does autism affect the extent to which you're willing to let people behave like arseholes? I don't know.
Because it's kind of treated like a get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
For behaviour, but that's because we believe that they're incapable of being to the level or having the level of social behaviour or awareness that we expect from people.
Yeah.
I guess.
But obviously, I guess what I'm getting to is that it kind of implies that quote unquote normal people do control their behaviour.
Yeah, they have more authority of their actions, or
more agency.
Yeah, or what's the word I'm looking for? Free will.
Free will.
Here we are. We finally got to it.
So, Yeah.
That belief that people have agency or whatever, like authority over their actions, that there's a them, isn't that kind of how we're supposed to think? Isn't that what people think generally? Like, don't I have free will?
Did I? Well, if you're autistic, apparently not. But if you're okay, I think the assumption is that when you're presented with a choice, there's nothing pushing you in either direction other than your own volition. You have your will. You have complete control over your own decision-making processes. Like, there's no other factors that come into play. That would be like free will. Having free will is that.
It's like the belief that, for example, you could go back on an event and do it differently.
Yeah. But obviously, we know that everything in the universe obeys the laws of physics, the laws of the universe, right?
Yes.
I mean, there are laws in the universe.
Right. Whether our physics are directly them or not is...
What do you mean?
Debatable. Well, I mean, we don't know if what we have currently... It's our best bet, sure, but we don't know if it's, like, infallible.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. But we weren't aware of these laws of the universe for many, many years, right? It's only since science and all that we've started to observe them. Yeah, they clearly affect our decisions and everything, and we know that. I mean, it's obvious, sometimes you make decisions and you might regret it later on. You might think, why the fuck did I do that, or whatever. So what does that means that, or at least it seems, and I think most people would say that it means that sometimes, there are things that can control you in a way. We think that's how we think of emotions and stuff. Sometimes you get angry, and you don't really control what you're doing.
Yeah.
Sometimes for example, I don't know if you know about that mass shooter guy, like in the 60s, I think.
Oh, what, the one
tower guy who was in a tower and he was like sniping people.
Yeah, and then he wrote like the letter saying, "Look into my brain."
Yeah,
seriously, like I think
like
something's up. Yeah, and it's in the specific place that encourages that behaviour.
Yeah, and then people are like, oh yeah. So had that guy like been, if he hadn't I think he killed himself. If he hadn't done
I don't know, he got shot down, I believe, because he just started killing everyone in the street. He climbed up somewhere and I think he killed his family, then climbed up to the top of the tower.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Started just shooting people at random.
Like, if he was still alive, people would probably have been more, he had a good excuse for doing what he did. He obviously... There's obviously something going on.
The opposite, right? It would be, if he had done those actions, he would have been held culpable. He would have been held responsible. Like, you decided to kill everyone, is how it would have been played if he remained alive.
Well, if he remained alive, he probably would have been...
Like, he would have been arrested and then... sent to prison, and he would have, no matter what he said, he would have been given life. Like, it's only because they got a look in his brain.
But if he was still alive and we knew that he had a tumour,
right?
That would make people go, oh well, that could happen to any of us. He wasn't controlling his behaviour and stuff.
Yeah, it's not his fault.
It's not his fault, right? But obviously, the problem is that none of us really control our own behaviour.
No, just try and think about where a thought has come from.
Yeah. You don't know where thoughts come from. You don't know why exactly you are the way you are.
Yeah.
So living in that world, if we all accepted that, what would that mean? How do you think we should think about that, or should we just continue, the way we are now?
Yeah, no, I think we
with the
should.
sense of moral responsibility that everyone has.
No, I think we should, because it doesn't... The only issue with a world like that is if people, for some reason... Because I find when I'm, reading up on this and stuff, a lot of the arguments against it aren't actually denying the fact that people don't have the kind of free will that they believe they have, in that they believe that they're culpable of all their actions.
Yeah.
And can be held morally responsible for that. The issue is with the belief that that nobody has free will, alongside that, they think that because of the fact nobody has free will, moral responsibility is sort of dismissed, and our criminal justice system would need to be changed and whatnot and stuff like that. And it's that they have an issue with, not so much with the fact that everybody doesn't have free will. And to that I say, like, even if people don't have free will, it doesn't mean that they shouldn't be like reprimanded. For example, if somebody goes and kills someone, that's immoral behavior that, according to my ethics, I guess, but like that's still wrong, and the person beholding those actions should still be punished.
Why?
Because they've carried out those actions. So even if it wasn't, it like is a personality defect that they didn't want to have themselves, or like it wasn't their choice to have, the fact of the matter is that they did still carry out that action. And so if they have the potential to murder, that's why we lock people up, right? Like, that's why we put people in prisons, is because they have the potential to act again in a similar way. And that would be disadvantageous to a society. Like, you can't have a society full of
potential murderers.
Yeah, like, it's not going to work because everybody's just going to start murdering. That still needs to be put in place to have a society. So it's not moral culpability. It's just people aren't held. I guess people would be held responsible for.
But what you're saying is that, I mean, you started with a moral thing, but it's not. So you're saying it's not on a moral basis, actually. It's nothing to do with morality. It's just to do with the security of everyone else.
Yeah. So like,
it's just a social
moral
thing.
Responsibility. It would be defunct almost, because it's not a choice of their own volition. They're not actively going against their own they're not making a choice to do the bad thing. Right. It's like an inevitability. Like, it's due to their like sort of circumstance, their genetics, what they've lived through and stuff like that, that has caused them to do that. And it's not their fault, because it's not. You wouldn't blame someone for not thinking of something like that. They have no control over what arises in their mind. Like, if a thought comes into your head, that's no more your fault than a thought that didn't come into your head, and you wouldn't be held morally culpable to thoughts that didn't occur to you.
Yeah.
Because there's no way you could have acted on those, because it just did not occur to you.
Yeah.
So they would still like deserve to be punished, so that they would like know that behaviour is unacceptable, or just, I guess it wouldn't matter if they just to protect like society at large, because as a society I feel like we've sort of come to grips with some things that we believe are immoral, such as like murder is wrong, like under certain circumstances. I mean, if you're in an army, sure, whatever, I guess. Like, it seems to be the way of society. But
or self-defense. Yeah,
generally shooting someone down in the street like a dog, bad move.
Yeah. So, do you think it's, following that line of thought, do you then think it's okay to be like mad at murderers or criminals, or do you think that doesn't make sense following this
it doesn't make sense
view of the world?
Yeah, I would say that doesn't make sense.
Just like you wouldn't get mad at the autistic person, you wouldn't get mad at the murderer.
Yeah, because I feel like you have to understand that a choice hasn't been made, so there is no moral responsibility. There is no agent that needs to take responsibility. That kind of concept, I suppose, would be almost absolved by this thought, this way of thinking. Because like, if there's no one to be held responsible, it seems silly to be mad about something like that. Like, they had no control over their actions to an extent.
It should just be
like, it should be, oh, this is a thing that has happened.
This thing over here, this person is dangerous, so we need to take them away.
Yeah.
Because we don't want other people to be in danger.
And it doesn't mean that you can't disagree with stuff. So, like, I could easily just say, I disagree with murder and like, rape and stuff. But the things carrying out those actions, it's not on the fact they decided. Like, nobody decides to rape, or nobody decides to kill. It's like a thing that arises due to them being unaware of the alternatives.
Yeah, you didn't choose to disagree with murder.
Right.
You didn't choose to be against it.
Yeah. I didn't choose to have this
because of how
conversation.
you were raised and all this, and the society you live in.
There are two like thought experiments, I guess, that I quite like to explain it. One is like just trying to not listen to what I'm like, try not to hear what I'm about to say. Is the first one. You just can't. Your brain's just going to decipher it, regardless of your own free will. And then the other is think of a country. And now say that country, I guess. For example, why didn't you think of numerous amounts of countries? You know that they are countries, so like, why didn't you think of Zimbabwe?
Yeah. Why did that country pop into your head?
Yeah. Like,
was it because that was the last country you thought about, or was it because that's the country you think about the most? I don't know. Was it just a random association that you made in your brain? You don't know.
Yeah. When I say Zimbabwe, you're aware that that's a country.
Yeah.
So you know that it's a country, yet you didn't think of it when I asked you to think of a country. You thought of whichever country you thought of.
You had all of those options, yet only one of them came to mind.
And you wouldn't...
And you don't know why.
Yeah. And you wouldn't say that you had all of those options, even though they're all valid choices that you are aware of.
Yeah.
Like, you know they are countries. They just didn't occur to you. And you don't feel responsible for that.
I guess that's kind of similar to John Locke's thought experiment. The locked room thought experiment, where it's basically just imagine someone in a locked room. He's just chilling in a room and he's like, should I leave this room or not? What should I do? And he eventually decides not to leave the room.
Wait, there are two doors, right? Or is this not the 2-door experiment? This is a different one.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's also another variant of it, but yeah. Well, you don't need even the 2 doors. If there's only one door and it's locked, but the person thinks they decided not to leave, but the truth is that even if they had tried to leave, like, the door was locked. So that's just a way of, like, thinking about the fact that we think there are choices, but what we don't know is that we were always going to
choose that thing.
Choose one thing.
Given what has occurred and like your genetics and stuff, you're always going to make the decision it is that you make.
The what's the word? Chain of events. I was going to say chain. That doesn't make sense, does it?
Chain of events.
Chain of events. Is that
certainly a phrase? That applies, I think.
Given the causal.
Everything in place, like the same atoms are exactly where they are. All that has happened is that you've gone back to the event exactly as it was. You're going to make the same decision because it's not a matter of deciding what is the decision you're going to make. It's a matter of awareness of the ulterior works, right?
Alternative
is a better word. Yeah, alternative choices.
It's a different word. It means different things.
Yeah, but it's a better word. It fits that. What I was trying to say better. So, like, the issue with with anyone that performs an immoral act or something along those lines is you taking a piss over there, man? It's just that they're not aware of the other choices. So the worst thing you could do is not tell people that they're making mistakes, for example. And the best thing or the way to address this kind of thing is to make people aware that what they're doing is considered unhealthy by society.
Yeah, because someone who hasn't thought about this much and is confronted with the idea that maybe we don't have free will, their reaction might be to say, oh, well, why do we,
well, look at me do this with my arm!
Or like, well, why do we punish anyone? Or why do we say anything if everyone's just going to behave the way they're going to behave? But the point is that an input of information can change someone's worldview or someone's behaviour. So if you tell someone, hey, the way you're behaving right now is kind of annoying, that might affect them and that might change them and they might not behave that way. So basically, the way we behave in the world is good. The fact that we do get mad at people, we do tell people to change the way they behave. That makes sense. It's just the sense that thinking that they had a choice and that they could have behaved differently doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
But we should still try to change the world and change people for the better.
Yeah. And that's the only thing, like, we almost can, that would be the most effective way of doing it. And you could even go back to the thought experiment, and now if people were asked what country they would think of, maybe they'll say Zimbabwe if they didn't before. Like, just because now that thought now that word is put into their head, like it has a higher chance of popping back up. So yeah, talking about stuff's important.
The problem with that is, well, not the problem, but it's just strange that we feel like we do have free will.
Right.
We feel like, you know, we make decisions.
Yeah, and I'll just add that it doesn't actually invalidate the decision-making process. Shall I do this over this? Because although whatever you decide upon is inevitable, that process is still healthy to making the decision. Like, it's still required to make the decision. So if you stop thinking about things, for example, and just going event after event after event, although you could, and you'll live your life, maybe after hearing this, that's what you'll do. It doesn't mean that the thinking about it is invalid, because that's still just the natural deterministic process. Like, at the end, sure, the door you go through was the door that was unlocked or whatever. Yeah. Or you decide not to leave the room and the door was locked. Like, that decision process is still helpful in making the decision that is determined. Like, it's still a requirement for that decision.
Yeah, you're a link in the chain of causal events. You know, you're part of the process. Maybe we should say what we're talking about when we say you and I. Like, when we say, like, I don't have free will, what we're talking about is the conscious you. Because you could, I guess, make the argument that, well, you know, it's your unconscious or whatever that's making
and it's like, it's the decisions that you've made previously that affect your current decisions.
So it's all part of you, that's what you are. But that's not what it feels like, you know, you're not aware of all the unconscious...
Right, your brain just takes it all as a stream. But it's... And
you're the part of you that's seeing and hearing and experiencing everything. You feel like you get to choose. So, I don't know, I don't understand, like, why that happened. Like, evolutionarily speaking, like, how did that develop?
What, the...
I guess maybe I'm talking about consciousness now.
What, so the I in that respect?
Yeah,
the I. The I of free will, for example.
Yeah, the conscious experiencer of things. Like,
right.
What is the... Because, I mean, I kind of looked it up, like, why does it feel like we have free will? What was the point of that, you know?
Right.
Why would that develop? And obviously, I mean, people don't really know.
Yeah,
One theory is that it's, you know, like we just said, kind of, it's part of the decision-making process. Maybe it's more useful to have this kind of conscious entity to view the options and to kind of think about each option, you know.
But it goes hand in hand with, like, the stream of time. It's the idea that there is a narrative that you follow. I think this is just, like, not vindicative, but, like, it's a helpful thing that for your brain, from an evolutionary standpoint, it's helpful to remember what it is that you've done previously. This would allow you, like, hunters to plant traps, or a concept of time would allow, like, farming to take place, so that you're aware that you planted seeds and that crops will grow, and that's
But
and I think that will goes hand in hand with the development of consciousness.
But does that have anything to do with the feeling of having free will, memory?
Yeah, I think so, because
do animals?
Do animals what?
Do you think animals feel like they have free will? I would say no.
But we think they do, right? We think they have consciousness, at least. Like, biological.
They have memories, right? You would say that.
Yeah, you can tame a dog. Like, you can train it. There's no way that could happen without memories, right?
Well, like, just having memories, that doesn't mean that you feel like you have free will, does it?
I believe that you would argue that animals do have free will, to the same extent that humans do. There's definitely a level of consciousness inside animals.
Yeah. But...
Or, at least, we like to assume.
I guess they probably would feel like... I don't know.
They would need a memory in order to... It would be biologically or whatever, evolutionary... an evolutionary advantage to develop a stream of events and interpret that as time passing, for example.
Yeah.
Because, like, well, it's helpful to have a memory so that you can know things that have occurred that will impact the future. So, like, a dog can be trained to like do a trick, or like birds will know where their nest is, and stuff like that. That's like that goes hand in hand with their survival. It helps propagate their species. It is why I assume it developed like through.
Yeah. So you're talking about perception of time.
Yeah, and I think that is, I don't know. I think that's helpful for consciousness because people believe that the same I is present through all these events, when even though everything about that I has changed. So the cells inside that eye has completely changed. The surroundings of the eye has completely changed. The eye itself has they look visually very different. Yet because the consciousness has been present in the present the entire time, you link those together and link them to gain the to believe that it's the same I throughout all these events.
You need the complete picture of all of the chronology.
And that's only because of memory. Like if you had no memory, the conscious agent, suppose it would still make decisions, but it wouldn't remember the decisions it's made. You definitely wouldn't have that same kind of I. Maybe more akin to an animal's.
Well, it's all about, as soon as, being able to project yourself, to imagine yourself in the future, that's a huge kind of evolutionary development, because that means you can plan things and you can get ahead of things. For example, if you're thinking about, cavemen hunting or whatever, if you can predict where an animal is going to be,
it really helps.
For hunting helps. So that's, I guess we're talking about consciousness. And what you just said then, I can't remember the name of the fucking guy, the Greek guy. You know the boat analogy? About that?
Shit.
Is it Theseus?
Could be. He was
Something
definitely
like
a top
that.
dude. He was like a philosopher as well as a army general or whatever.
Oh really?
He was both.
Oh,
he was.
right.
That's why he. Maybe I'm getting the wrong Greek dude.
I don't know.
What? Describe the boat analogy.
Well, the boat analogy it relates to consciousness. What you were just saying, the fact that all of your cells change, but you still feel like you're the same person over time. It's the boat. If you over time change, swap out pieces of the boat, one by one.
Right.
One day you swap out this piece, and then the next week you swap out this piece. Over time, at a certain point, it's none of the pieces are the same. None of the parts of the boat are the same as they were originally.
Right.
So at what point is it a different boat? It's still the same shape and everything, and everything is still, it's been continuous, but everything has changed.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is are you still the same person? What makes you you? Is it the the cells, or is it the perceived continual consciousness that you experience? You feel like you've been on a continuous spectrum of living, you feel like you've always been the same person.
Right, but there are cases where that is not true.
Well, yeah, I mean...
ego death is a very real thing, I think. And meditation is, their whole practice is separating the ego from them, which would imply that stream of events is not a true representation of I.
Well...
I think, anyway.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know... I don't really understand ego death. But you still, when you finish meditating or whatever, you still kind of come back to who you were.
Yes, I think that's. I think they accuse the ego of doing that.
I mean,
of course you do. They exist separate. They know of an existence separate to the ego.
Right.
So that would imply that it's not something that is intrinsically them, because there are parts where that doesn't apply to them, which would mean that it could be separated from you or I. It's a tangible thing that could be taken away through the right training or the certain set of drugs,
Right.
But then also there are multiple versions of self, right? There's the self that's perceived in other people's eyes. There's the narrative that you tell yourself. That's your ego. There's I think anyway. like your bodily self, although that might be I don't know if that's the same thing, but like the perceived self by other people, is that
Would you count
equally
that
as true a representation of you as your narrative? Because the way they perceive you could be vastly different. For example, if you're like telling a joke and they don't know, they're not in on the joke,
right.
Their perception of you would be one that relates to the joke as a true representation of you, whereas you're aware that what you're doing is lying. So that would be a false perception
right.
of you. So you could argue that that is not you.
Well,
Yet to them it is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone would say that that's like you. Like the way you're perceived by others. But like everyone accepts that we have our individual, experience. We're inside our own heads. We're experiencing things, and then everyone else experiences us. They perceive us, but I don't know. What's the point of what you're saying?
Just there are multiple versions of self.
But surely the most important one is the one that you experience, the self, the actual self.
Potentially,
I guess.
But even that isn't true because you act in ways that aren't true to you. Like there are times when you feel like, oh, that wasn't a true representation of me. Like.
Okay. Wait. Yeah. Okay.
Like if you get like really angry and you lash out at someone and they like recoil, you're like, oh no, sorry, that wasn't me. Or for example, if you're blackout drunk, you don't remember any of the events that took place, yet people expect you to have a moral culpability of that. Like you're held accountable in the same way, but there is no present you. There's no conscious you there.
Actually,
but your body is referred to as, like their perceptions of you is then treated as the top dollar, I guess, because you have no perception of it, but it's still treated as you.
Yeah, that's true. Also, like,
can I go to the toilet? Can I leave?
You can.
Cool. Just hold that thought, dude.
I'm gay! We were talking about the way other people perceive us versus how we perceive ourselves or whatever.
Yeah.
The different...
I think there are more than two perceptions of self, but right now I can't remember them.
But the thing is, like, when I'm looking at you, like, I don't control the way you behave, so I'm just watching you. I'm watching a movie. I'm watching your narrative, your life, your story that's unfolding. Like, you're doing your own thing, and I'm just perceiving it. And I'm just registering that information that I'm watching. Oh, no, he just drank out of that can. He's doing this, now he's doing that. But the truth is that we feel like we have free will, but we don't control all of the things that control us, like we said earlier. So we're basically just watching ourselves. Yeah. So the way I perceive myself is kind of on the same level as the way you perceive me. It's like we're all just perceiving...
It's a self-narrative. It's a narrative your brain is
it's a self-reflective thing. Like, we're all just watching... I'm watching my own movie too. I feel like I feel like I'm writing the movie, but I'm actually not. I'm just experiencing it. Yeah. The universe is writing it, I guess. Yeah, the way I perceive myself is no more valid than the way other people perceive me. Right. It's just that I'm in here, I'm inside me, so I feel like I control it.
And I think that's what would be referred to as your core personality or your ego. It's that narrative. Right. But that narrative doesn't actually apply to you. No. Because you make just as much assumptions about yourself as you make about other people. Right. Which is loads. So it's when you become aware of ego death is realizing that narrative is what it is, and a narrative, not like a true representation of whatever it is I is. Yeah. It's just something that your brain is creating to tell it, it tells itself, it's like a feedback loop, but it tells itself what it is, so you can do things. I have to be, for example, you want to be a scriptwriter, right? Yeah. And that's just something your ego has told you that it wants, right? It's not something that in actuality is an inevitability of you. Yeah. But yet you feel like it is. And ego death, I think, is when your personality is revealed to just be that, a facade, just as much as your representation of other people. You think that, for example, I think that you want to be a scriptwriter. Little did I know that that's just something you've told me. It's not actually something that you truly think of yourself, for example. So and the ego death is I think the realization of that, and it's the death of that personality. Like, that personality that has had, or thought it was in control, is like, JK, I wasn't holding the wheel the whole time.
Right.
And then the you that comes from, like, separates from that is like, what? That thing wasn't even me?
Yeah.
Shit.
So it's like, if I told you one day that I actually don't want to be a scriptwriter, that would be a revelation to you. And that would be like the ego death, in a certain analogy. Like, an ego death to me would be like realizing, well, not realizing that I don't actually want to be a scriptwriter, but realizing, I guess, the reasons why, or like the everything that's beneath the surface of that, like
it's kind of revealed to be kind of superficial.
Yeah,
like that isn't what matters. That isn't
the desire to be a scriptwriter is just a side effect of all the other kind of, you know, the mental neurological processes that are going on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what to do with this, really.
What to do with this knowledge?
Yeah, I mean, like, thinking about the fact that free will doesn't exist, like, do you find that helps you?
Yeah. I find that it helps me.
Like, in what ways?
Well, in the kind of... So I don't have as much regret, or, like, the belief that I could have done otherwise, because I realise that is simply that. Like, it's simply an illusion.
Yeah,
I could never have done otherwise, so...
Helps you accept
Although
things.
I could act differently in the future, you can still reflect on the things that have occurred and gone and think like, okay, so when I did that, something bad happened. I don't want to do that in the future. But that is different, I think, than thinking, if only I could go back and change what I'd done.
Right.
Because that is just a exercise in futility. Like, it doesn't help you. Maybe you could argue that it helps drive home that feeling of, I will change in the future, but I'd say that it doesn't really.
That's just,
It's just you being yourself. You in whatever, what do you call these? When you do them in the air? Quotation marks? Air quotes?
Yeah.
You in air quotes. Is just beating up you in air quotes. I think it's helpful. I mean, I've got different experiences from you. I believe that I've had a similar experience to what ego death is generally described by.
Right.
Because I took LSD and I thought I had died, and it was very strange, very weird experience that I'm only slowly realising now, or interpreting it in a different way now. Before I couldn't really explain. I remember talking to people at the time, following on from it, maybe like 2 weeks, like for the next 2 weeks, like telling people that I had died, like the me of the past is dead almost, like the current me is totally unrelated to the past me, like, and like you just on it you perceive time in a completely different way, like I was in what felt like a time loop. It's like a super alarming instant way of realizing that your consciousness state currently is not all that it could be, that there are varying states of consciousness, like to a real alternate degree, like in comparison to drinking and like smoking and stuff. Like they all alter how you perceive things, but not quite to the extent that LSD or mushrooms do. And at the time I seriously thought I was dying. Like I don't know how I was reacting in the real world, but in my head, like I was dying and I had died, and stuff like that. And so from that, only now am I realising that I struggled with that for a while. I didn't know how I should act with that knowledge or what I should do, and I don't know if slowly my ego has been built back up through many things, but I think now I'm more accepting of these kind of ideas, and I think that they help me act in a healthier way than I had been, because before I was just confused. I think I'm slowly becoming, like, clarifying my thoughts, but they kind of sound a bit deranged when I say them out loud, so still maybe I've got work to do.
Well, that's just your verbal skills.
Yeah.
To work.
But like, Like, I had seriously thought I died. Obviously, I hadn't died. I'm still here. I'm still talking to you.
So you felt like a new consciousness started?
Yeah.
So it's like
so all the memories before that incident are, like, kind of... I'm slowly coming back to the idea that they are still me and stuff,
it's like,
but, like...
you started a different river, you know?
Yeah.
Because a river is like a continuous thing. You can't really separate. That's what consciousness feels like. It feels like a continuous thing.
Yeah.
But then you took it at LSD and that river
I had, like, a weird
ended,
experience.
and then a new one started.
I think so, yeah.
You can still see the other one, but you just feel like you're in a different...
I'm in a separate, a different thing. I think so. And so I've realised that is a potentiality of... Consciousness has that capability. Like, it's not infallible. It's, like, not concrete. It's not all it's cracked up to be. It's not what we think it is.
Yeah, it can be played with.
It can really be toyed with and really, like, go to places that you can't even comprehend. And that's why I think, like, trips are so hard to explain, because you have to be there, and to be there you have to have taken it, and you have to be the perceiver of the events.
Right.
So it's almost impossible to explain a trip properly.
It's kind of like drugs kind of mess with evolution, like, because we've evolved to perceive the world the way we do, like, because it was useful, because it worked, you know.
Right.
And when you take drugs and your consciousness changes, it's hard to explain, because it's not like anything you've ever experienced before, obviously, because it's just a different way of perceiving, you know, the world and yourself and everything's different. And, you know, and maybe what you're experiencing, maybe an ego death is what it feels like to be, you know, an animal or whatever, you know, like, it's a different stage of consciousness or a different type of it. And it just shows that we feel like what we're experiencing is like an objective reality, an objective representation of things.
But that's just not the case.
But it's just not. It's just how we've evolved, because that worked, and now those genes got passed down.
And I think from my, like, albeit minimal research, I mean, I'm not, you know, a mega scientist or mega
You're not
researcher.
a mega scientist.
I'm not like a big one. I dabble. I like to think I dabble anyway.
I'm a polymath.
Like, through meditation, you can acquire a similar state of consciousness.
Yeah.
So it isn't that it's like, oh, that's just drugs. Like, taking drugs appears to be like a shortcut to that drastic change. So it's like, and it's only because the drug is so drastic that you feel so, like, lost, and that's why I think it's taken me so long to sort of understand it.
But does that...
But, like, from what I understand, meditation is a different route to a similar goal, and you can achieve that state of consciousness through meditation. Like, whilst you're in the meditation, you have that kind of stream where your ego is separate to what you are.
Yeah, and and even after meditation, like if you meditate on a regular basis, like, that can have, you know, it can affect you in various ways. You know, it can make you more calm.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. I mean, if you have if you're aware that your ego is separate to what is actually occurring,
right,
then things such as emotions, they don't have quite as much weight to them. Like, they don't have as much power over you, because really they shouldn't. They're just things your ego are like, it like develops, and you assume that they have a lot of meaning. But I think a lot of it is that you're feeling angry, and then you then look to justify why you're angry. At which point you get angry at things because you think that's what's causing you to be angry. When I think in reality that isn't quite the case. It's like it's more of like a flow, like emotions come and emotions go, and you shouldn't get so caught up, because it's the dwelling and the getting bogged down by them that causes you to act upon them.
Yeah, it's like
and it means that when you're, like, feeling those emotions, you can't think rationally or logically, because they're inhibiting you from, like, your kind of flow of, I don't know, your usual flow, I guess.
I think, you have to kind of, I think this is the not the Epicurean, the Stoic view, where you have, if I remember correctly, you have to not, basically just don't worry about independent factors, things that you can't control. I mean, in the deterministic world, you can't really control anything in yourself. But like, yeah, like you don't get mad at a storm, for being a storm, for doing its thing, a tornado, because you understand it's just a
it's a development of whatever it is that causes storms.
And it's the same for people, People I don't think Nietzsche talks about this in I'm not sure which book, but yeah, he makes that comparison. It's just you just have to accept the fate of things, the inevitability of things. It's the amor fati, the love of your fate. That's what Nietzsche called it. Like
you're so proud.
You're
so smug over there. Oh, amor fati.
Yeah, but this is Nietzsche.
No, it's good.
But like, and I think it helps me a lot to kind of have that thing where I don't let the things that control me. I don't know how to put it. Like, I get self-reflective and introspective to the point where if I'm being affected by an emotion, I can think about it and kind of analyze myself and be like, okay, why are you feeling that way? Because I'm an arsehole. Like I
for sure.
But like even more than you'd think. Like I'm the type of person who was like, if I'm in a relationship, I feel the need to like actively make the other person jealous, because it feeds my ego,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I have a fucking enormous ego, and like I just like when people. Well, in the case of a relationship, if I know that the other person is getting jealous, that means that they like me, and obviously, and
maybe that means it's irrational.
But like, okay, but if I'm in a relationship and I feel the desire to make the person jealous by like flirting with someone else or whatever,
yeah,
I can kind of think about that and think, okay, why are you doing that? Well, it's because your ego, is making you do that, and you want to flatter your ego, and you can kind of just decide, well. No, don't do it then. No.
Yeah.
There's no good reason to do that. It's evil, in a sense. It's just, it's not nice to do that. And if once you understand yourself, and I guess you just have to be self-aware. You just have to kind of psychoanalyze yourself.
Yeah, be skeptic of your emotions, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, be skeptic of the things that are almost compelling you to do something.
Yeah.
Because then you start breaking it down, you sort of start realising that you're not sure why things, like, in some respects, with that, you can be aware that what you're doing is, like, maybe immoral, but most of the time, you're not sure why it is that you feel the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, I feel like that seems kind of unintuitive to the point where, like, it doesn't make sense to follow the belief that you don't even know why you have. Like, it doesn't make sense that you would, like, if you're getting angry about something, but you don't know why you're angry, to me that would mean that there's no point in you being angry, like, because you're not even sure what you're angry at, because when you stop to think about it, you're not angry at the thing that you think you're angry about, you're just angry for some reason. And at that point you're like, okay, so there isn't a reason that I'm angry, and I think you can just let it go. Like,
well, there's a reason, but it's so...
Yeah, it's lost. It's not at all what it is that you think you're being angry
really relevant.
At. Like, when you feel angry, you want to take it out. You're like, oh, fuck this drink for being empty. Fuck this cup for not having liquid in. But then I'm like, actually, I don't think that's a problem. I know I drank that drink, so that's why it's empty. I'm not angry at that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same. Like, again, I mean, I feel like I'm just explaining why I'm really bad at being in relationships. But sometimes, like, if I argue with my girlfriend or whatever, like, I just get like so angry, and the anger just like fuels itself, like, and I just like, it's almost like I want to be angry and I don't want to not be angry.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, it's it fits into like this kind of loop where the only reason you're angry is because you end up justifying your anger because you want to be angry.
Yeah, and like,
but you don't want to be
even
angry.
Even if there's an easy way out, I'm just angry and I'm like, no, like, fuck you, like, you know what, I don't want to not be angry anymore. But if you're self-aware about that, you can just be like, okay, what am I doing? Like, what's the point? Why am I angry right now?
Yeah.
Like, just move past it, When you're doing that, you're kind of like fighting, your instinctual urges.
Yeah, it's super difficult as well. Like, it's not...
It's hard,
It doesn't... Because it's so intuitive to you that you feel that you're the culprit behind your decision making. When you feel angry, you feel like you should be like your indignation, like you want to be angry. Like because you're morally culpable of your actions, you are the will behind your anger. Yeah. There is you justify your anger through like you being the culpable, like you're culpable of your anger, so you have justification in your anger, when in reality you don't know why you're angry. Stop pretending. Like, let's be frank with everyone. You don't know why you're angry. There's no reason you should be angry. You're not willing yourself to be angry. It's only after the fact that you are angry that you think you're willing yourself to be angry.
Yeah.
I think.
And like, I feel like, I mean, obviously all these emotions like anger, they evolved for a reason, you know? It helps us survive in some way.
Maybe it helps you in a fight, maybe it helps your aggression, I don't know.
Yeah. Obviously, I mean, there's so many explanations for all emotions.
But
they work, obviously, but...
They don't anymore so much.
Yeah, I feel like, obviously, the world has changed, society we live in has changed, so I feel like mastering your own kind of emotions and impulses, I feel like it's a good step forward in evolution. Like, if we can do that, I mean, it's not like we're still not free. Like, just because you're fighting your instincts, that doesn't mean you have free will, you know? Because the fact that you're fighting your instincts was predetermined anyway as well.
So let's say after this conversation you start trying to act against your instincts. Yeah. That's not free will, it's just the fact that as soon as you heard this conversation...
you heard us say that.
So you then, like, your body interpreted that and now is...
Yeah, but again, it's like, it's changing things positively. You just have to put the information out there, and the people who will be changed by that information will be changed, and hopefully that will be
maybe
good.
If they're not changed now, this conversation will aid them in changing later on. Like, at a later point when this gets explained in maybe a different way, then they'll be capable of understanding it.
Yeah, it's just about...
It's just about trying to explain it in a way that is understandable by everyone, eventually.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the hardest things, like, kind of being self-aware. Like, that's kind of my goal, I would say. Being, like, self-aware of all of my subconscious mechanisms. To the point where I can kind of control myself. And I feel like that would be good for everyone. Like,
if everybody had that kind of talent.
If we can kind of develop that and pass that down through the generations, like, I feel like that would be good.
I actually heard, I was listening to a podcast earlier, and they mentioned, like, if they were to change education in a single way, it would be to teach meditation for, like, a certain amount of time, like, in
that's actually
mandatory hours, because it's a lot more helpful for a society and for the individual to master their emotions instead of learning something that would aid them in, like, a specific job sector.
Right.
Because those are skills that they can develop either on the job or whatnot, but skills such as meditation is something that will aid them throughout their entire life, not just in their social life, but personal life, like academic, employment life. All the aspects of their life will be enriched through...
Because it's you. You're changing yourself.
And I was like, that's so true. Especially at, like, a young age when people are more adaptable. Do we do a sign-off? That's been Slouch. Bye!